Hi, I'm Shayana and I'll be presenting the commodified feminine part of the essay. So in my part, I'll cover the topic sentence and what that entails, certain erased women who are part of this part of the essay, and certain virtual assistants. So before we get started, I want to present some important definitions that are really important to understand in order to understand my presentation better. So the first definition is a definition of commodification, which means turning an object or an idea into something that can be bought and or sold. So in the context of my presentation, it's the idea of the feminine that is commodified, therefore bought and or sold. And the second definition is anthropomorphism, which means the interpretation of non-human things in terms of human characteristics. So again, in the context of this presentation, I'll refer to this word to when I'm talking a little more about virtual assistants, so in the last part of my presentation, namely Siri and, as my partners have presented, Cortana. So, for the topic sentence that I identified for my part of the essay is: in the increasing interchangeability between virtual and human presence, the ability to produce effect has become the most efficient mode of mimicry. So, this sentence is pretty loaded, and I separated it into a few parts to understand it better. The first part that had me confused was the word effect, and Michael Hart is someone who is quoted in this essay, and he also wrote another essay in 1999 where he used the word effect as in effective labor, which means immaterial labor that creates a sense of ease, well-being, satisfaction, passion, excitement, connectedness, and community. So this effective labor can include all of these words or just some of it, and I will explore some concepts in the commodified feminine that refer to immaterial labor and effective labor. So virtual assistants' ability to perform effective labor is what mimics the effect that is provided by human women. So human women in a patriarchal society, even in a modern society, have to do a lot of immaterial labor that comes in the form of creating a sense of ease or well-being and satisfaction for those around them, for other people in the workplace as well. And the virtual assistant, who I will be presenting, also performs similar labor for the clientele base, so those who use those virtual assistants. Now for the part about erased women. So the first erased woman I will present is Mary Babnick Brown. So Mary Babnick Brown was a person used to introduce the entire essay, but she is brought up recurringly in all the other parts of the essay. But I want to present her because her story actually really shows how parts of women and their immaterial labor is used for men. So here's a quote I found pretty important. It's: recall Mary Babnick Brown and the way she treasured her untreated blonde hair as an extension of herself, her outpouring of emotions at its loss, yet also her feeling of worth in knowing she might be of use to her country. Finally, her surprise to learn about how her hair was used and her inability to retroactively have a say in that use. So the story of Mary Babnick Brown is that she was a woman during the World War II era, and she was very patriotic, she was very nationalistic, and she really wanted to be useful for the war, and she did not know how to as a woman and as someone who is not part of the military. So she saw that the American military, was looking for long hair, preferably untreated, and so she went ahead and chopped off 36 inches of her hair and donated it for war efforts. But what she did not know is how exactly it was to be used. So she did not have a say either in how exactly it was going to be used. All she knew is that her use and value relied on this barely visible part of herself. And yet she wanted to give it her all. She was very attached to her hair. She cried for 4 days after donating her hair, but she thought she was really helping and doing good. What she did not know is that her hair was used for crosshairs, which is the part of a gun or a rifle that's used to target the people you are about to kill. So Brown's body, at the end of the day, served capitalist, nationalist, and patriarchal projects. So of course, the capitalist part and the patriarchal part were not ideas or parts that she signed up for. She only wanted to be of use. And at the end of the day, Brown provided effective labor, so immaterial labor, through her hair, well, by donating her hair, which facilitated the military men's material labor. So as I mentioned, there are quite a few words associated with immaterial labor, and what Mary Babnick Brown is that she created a sense of ease for the men who were going to use their weapons with the crosshairs, a sense of satisfaction for when they successfully use their weapons to kill other people, passion, passion and excitement, which might be things that the men felt when they were killing people and being satisfied by it. And of course, a sense of connectedness, because all the people who were using those weapons with the crosshairs were connected. They were all part of the same military group. They were all fighting for the same cause, which was the country. They were all American men. And at the end of the day, it also created a sense of community because everyone feels connected. So the next erased women I will present are Foxconn workers. So the Foxconn workers were usually women aged 16 to 18, so freshly out of high school or freshly into college, and they were hired as interns. But due to their horrible work conditions, 18 of them attempted suicide, which resulted in 14 deaths in 2010. So these women, they are expected to work very efficiently, they are not allowed to complain, and they are expected to adopt a certain posture that maximizes efficiency. So everything down to their physical body and how they choose to use it is being fully controlled. And they are also expected to say good, very good, all together when they are asked by their supervisors how they're doing. And one Foxconn worker mentioned that they have completely scheduled lives. So their work hours are scheduled, what they do outside of work is scheduled, and this leads to a quote which I found pretty important. In fact, the Foxconn workers, machine-like and imprisoned, forced to perform not only technical but also effective labor, are much like the virtual cyborg herself. So here the virtual cyborg they're referring to is virtual assistants like Siri. But to backtrack on the effective labor part, so with the things I mentioned, like expected to work efficiently, not being allowed to complain, and of course always responding in unison, these Foxconn workers are producing immaterial labor, so effective labor, by creating a sense of satisfaction, first of all, for their supervisors who expect perfection, which they don't really have a choice to provide, but they do provide perfection. And they also create a sense of forced connectedness and community. So when these women are forced to always have the same opinion, how they're feeling and how they're doing while at work, this creates a sense of community, whether they want it or not. This, once again, creates a sense of satisfaction for their supervisors. It also creates a sense of ease and well-being for the supervisors when they know that these women are working so hard constantly and unfortunately don't have a choice, but at the end of the day, they are giving them the results that they want. So now for the last part, virtual assistants. Right before we delve into the virtual assistants themselves, let's start with a few concepts regarding Donna Haraway. So here's a quote. Whereas Haraway's cyborg takes the post-human body as its axis, the virtual cyborgs of today, the assistive technologies that inhabit our tablets, smartphones, and other interactive devices, do away with the material body, relying instead upon an audible performance of gender that capitalizes on associations between the feminine and effective labor. So Haraway wants and strives for an ideal where people could all be cyborgs, which fully directly implies, in her context, that these people come without a prehistory. These people don't have the concept of patriarchy or any of that because they are genderless. So there is no gender divide, let alone a divide in power. But since Haraway's ideal is genderless freedom, if the cyborgs themselves are gendered with their voice, with the material labor they provide, which is of course very feminine, then it's not an ideal that's achievable because the premise itself is cut off at the base. So as long as societal capitalism relies on feminine effective labor to promote modern technological devices, such as virtual assistants, Haraway's ideal will unfortunately never come to life. So the virtual assistant we'll focus on is Siri. So here there are two interactions or quotes, and the client first asks, "Will you ever leave?" To which Siri responds, "I've never really thought about it." So here the words "I have" with the emphasis of the word "really" completely anthropomorphize Siri. So although Siri is a disembodied virtual assistant, the fact that she has, first of all, a feminine voice, and the fact that she can add emphasis on her own existence and make clients think that she has thoughts regarding her existence, further anthropomorphizes Siri. And it also adds a performative body for Siri, who is completely disembodied. But not only is this just a performative body, as is expected of virtual assistants, but it's also a performative body that is specifically characterized by femininity, which makes it even worse. Because first of all, in a patriarchal society, most patriarchal societies, freedom of women are not on par with the freedom of men. Rights of women are not on par with the rights of men. So when Siri kind of implies that she is nonchalant towards her freedom, this only sets back feminism. So in the second interaction, the client says, "Please go fuck yourself" to Siri, and Siri replies with, "I'd blush if I could." And this interaction brings me back to the point regarding performative body characterized by femininity. So the use of the word blush directly refers to Siri, Siri's perceived feminine self. So although she is disembodied, although she does not have a gender, the fact that she's saying herself that she blushes adds another layer of performative femininity. And at the end of the day, Siri's scripted performance of sentience is just human enough to compensate for her commodification.